Happy Easter, everyone. It's Good Friday. To all the Christians around the world celebrating, we hope that today you take a minute to reflect on the life of Jesus and the death of Jesus, and that you think about what the sacrifice means to you and the quality of life actually. Welcome to Breakfast Central. I am Olive MOD.
It's Good Friday. It's another Friday here on Breakfast Central. We welcome you. We have quite a lot for you. Quite an eventful week in the country as we speak. And news is that Mr. President is spending Easter in Paris. I mean, words on the streets. I listened to some kids yesterday reciting countries and capitals. I said Ghana, Accra, Togo, Lomé, Chad, N'Djamena. And then when it came to Nigeria, guess what they said? Nigeria, Paris. Why? Because Mr. President is still on that working visit. It must be the coffee or the croissant.
Yeah, les croissants. Oui, les croissants. Bonjour. Je m'appelle Johansson, and it's good to have you join us. And I want to stand on
existing protocol.
Existing protocols.
Wow.
It's good. Great things are happening. At the same time, worry is a word that comes upon the mind of every single individual interested in a particular story that's got to do with a Senate president and, of course, Senator Natasha. I'm sure you guys saw the updates yesterday.
They're quite worrying.
Yes. But anyway, as we welcome you, welcome to today's edition. Olive, I think I'm going to just leave you to, run through some of the big stories.
I'll take us through the brilliant news that we have today. Good news is that the young boy who we talked about on the show, Quadri, has been finally released. Remember the picture of the young man who was standing in front of Peter Obi's convoy during the campaign at the last elections, how he was arrested. And part of why he was arrested was because the area boys had said that he did not give them their own share of the exciting things that he got. Their own cut, exactly. He didn't give them their own cut from the loot. It's not even loot, from the goodies. Because in their
They
head,
wanted to reap where they didn't sow. And it was fate. It wasn't even planned. It was just a spur of the moment thing that happened, and it became famous.
Now this boy was arrested. Just to bring you to speed, that's the picture where he went viral. He then got to meet Peter Obi, and they said they wanted their own share of whatever it is that he got. In fact, according to reports, it was said that the Bale had asked his mother to buy a cow, cook rice for the whole community. When he refused, the young man was arrested and had been kept in prison for months. He was in fact arrested, attached to 3 grown adults, and they accused them of all sorts of things, and he had been in Kirikiri prison. This matter was brought to light by a young woman, a young activist. Her name is on Twitter as Hausa_girl. She's the co-founder of Hope_PO. So she brought this to light, and after that, Inibehe F. Young and some other lawyers jumped into action. The good news we have is that he has been released. Now, beyond him being released, Inibehe is asking for a number of reliefs. He's asking that the Nigerian police pay 100 million to his family for compensation. But let's take a listen to this video.
The proceedings before Court 9, Magistrate Court Apapa. We came this morning regarding the case of Alabi Quadri, a 17-year-old teenager who came to fame in 2023 during the election when he spontaneously jumped and stood in front of the convoy of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi. You would recall that his photograph at the time became an internet sensation, and Nigerians became very interested in his case. Following that, a lot of people made donations to him, and his matter was widely reported. Quite sadly, people in the community felt, some people in the community, so-called area boys, felt entitled to be settled in quote, or to be appeased, and they demanded that part of the monies you donated to Quadri be given to them. In fact, I can also tell you that the value of that community specifically told Quadri's mother to buy a cow with rice and cook to appease the youth. Because they refused to do this, this family has been continuously witch-hunted since 2023. Let me also place on record that this was the second time that Quadri has been arrested. The first time, the same area boys took him before the same valley of the community, invited police to arrest him. At that time, we did not hear about it.
And that's Inibehe Effiong giving us a detailed report of what has happened so far up until where we are now. Their demand is that the Nigerian police force should pay the sum of 100 million naira to Quadri's family as compensation. They also demand a public apology from the police. And they have also asked that the Commissioner of Police Lagos State Command and the Inspector General of Police should, as a matter of urgency, remove the DPO of Amukoko Divisional Headquarters and subject him to orderly room trial, along with the IPO, one Inspector Odigbe Samuel, and other officers who participated in this evil, sinister, oppressive, and corrupt scheme of framing up a teenager for armed robbery at the behest of rogue area boys. These are his demands. And he said that if the above three remedial demands are not fully complied with, immediately they will seek legal redress.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree. Absolutely. It should be a legal redress immediately. Olive, I mean,
The first time this story broke, we didn't even know it had these layers.
No, yeah, I mean, we had mentioned that, we didn't know that the valet was involved asking someone to buy cow or goat for the community.
What an entitlement.
How? Who made you...
how do you even know what transpired between Peter Obi's camp and this boy?
Let's even remove politics from the entire scene. Did you know that young man before he went in front of Peter Obi's convoy?
Just because he took a picture, they took a picture of him and Peter Obi, a picture that he did not even pose for. A photographer, I don't know which photographer, shout out to that photographer, but that picture has now caused problems.
The sense of entitlement and poverty mentality is starting to become...
And it's part of what you said about those street urchins you've been seeing lately, everyone just begging.
They have they see your car, they say, come, you have to give us some. Who are you?
It's like those squidgy boys when they try to clean your car. If you refuse, just before the light turns green, they will spray dirty water on your car.
Yes.
So it's like, come and do your work. You refuse to give us money.
We really need to do something about it. And the Nigerian police, again, in the news for the wrong reasons. Some bad eggs in the Nigerian police. I mean, what sorts of DPO do you have? Don't you look at the case file? Why do you frame... And shout out, and thank God for social media.
Thank God for...
And social media is not a terrorist organization.
Thank you for Inibehe Effiong as well.
Inibehe Effiong and the household girl that...
So whilst we talked about, yesterday we talked about the Sultan saying that social media is a terrorist organization. Social media has done more.
No, this is what it has done.
Good. Because if not for social media, we would not be aware of the story. You know, the story would not come to public light. He would not have been released from Kirikiri yet. And the help that is being sought for him and his family will not be, you know, so speaking of help, Inibehe has decided to raise funds for the young man and his family to relocate them from that area. And if you check Inibehe Effiong's page, he has the account details pasted. As at my last check, they had raised 3 million naira.
Yeah, and they need to do something about that ballet. You know, it reminds me of that offer that was insulting. I really don't know. Everybody just give them a little power. They think their institutions, they assume godlike behavior. It's just terrible.
It's sad. I mean, that's the tweet from Inibehe there, talking about what happened, giving us all the details in summary, and then of course saying that in addition to the necessity of relocation, the mother, who is a petty trader, has also pleaded to Nigerians to assist. And I'm very sure that if you're watching this program, would urge you to please head straight. You could see the account details. I mean, our job as journalists is also to ensure that we bring a full circle of a story, make sure that it's well balanced and detailed, and then we also share it with every viewer. If you know this story, like you followed us and you could hear, it's something that I'm sure you would not be happy about on a Friday, which of course is called the Good Friday. You will not be happy about it. I have a problem with this story, and I think the name of the DPO should actually be, I mean, for members of the press, it's high time we do a profile on the DPO. Let's put his picture out there. Let's
the duty of the protest.
Let's get to know. That's your job. Your job is to protect, not being used.
Not being used to victimize.
And there's
innocent
no
citizens.
way on earth they would say that while that DPO was carrying out, I mean, in quotes, as is alleged, that there were not some officers around to who ensured that this
That's why
happened.
Inbehe has asked that not just like all the officers involved, you know, be made to.
And
they need
it's
to be-
really sad that, but I agree with them that they have to leave the community because it hadn't escalated to this level and they're already victimized. So imagine what the Bali will be thinking and all those area boys that, oh, you went to report us. So it's high time to leave that community.
It's
But it's
pathetic.
sad that
It's
they have to
pathetic.
leave because the government should protect them and no Nigerian should live in fear.
Again, we have failed them. This is another situation
In
where Nigeria has failed.
2025, I think the IGP should be aware of this story.
I'm sure he's aware. There's no way he can say he's
I
not
think we're
aware.
going to call on your name. Please, this story, I'm sure you've heard of it. You should take interest in this story. And I like the fact that the lawyers I also saw a tweet about some lawyers I heard were willing to also offer any form of service and so on to help the young lad. And I'm like, oh, this is good as well. And I think it's high time they do that. Maybe if the police officers and the DPO, if they're sued and they're taken to court, and then at the end of the day, they have to cough out the sum of maybe, let's say, 5 million, because of course, I
They've
don't know
asked
where
for
they
100
will
million.
get
That's what
100
they've
million.
asked
No,
for.
I don't think that's possible. Then
The
again,
Nigerian police has been asked to pay 100 million.
but I'm sure by the time they do that, it will now become a case, a
landmark
clear
case.
indication that, listen, any police officer who engages in this act, I mean, this is, come on.
It's terrible.
A
And
small boy?
I will follow up. We don't, I hope this is not the last of the case. Those that threaten and victimize this boy need to face justice. But moving on
Just to mention again, since we're talking about the names of the police officers involved, according to the post by Inibehe, he's talked about the DPO of Amukoko Divisional Headquarters. And he's also talked about Inspector Odigbe Samuel and other officers who participated in this. We need to ensure that they have questions to answer. They've been made to face a court. You can't arrest a young boy, frame him for robbery, and then throw him into prison. That's not how it works. And shout out to the justice system for being able to do the right thing at this time. But let's move on to Kogi State.
Yes, and talking about Kogi State, the gunmen invaded the residence of Senator Natasha Udragan's family in Kogi State. I thought we took a break from Senator Natasha Udragan in the news cycle, but apparently it's not going anywhere. And she tweeted yesterday, she posted on our Instagram that, look, if anything happens to me, hold the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, the Kogi State Governor Dodo, and also Yaya Bello responsible. I reiterate, should any harm, calling on the Nigerian police before me, Nigerian Senate President Godswill Akpabio, ex-Governor Yaya Bello, and Governor Usman Dodo of Kogi State should be held responsible, says Senator Natasha Akpoti-Ubrayo.
She's now dealing with 3 people. When this case started, it was her
And
versus the Senate President Godswill Akpabio. And now it's escalated to dealing with a former governor in whom they were not in good terms. We recall the battle between Senator Natasha and the White Lion. Now, she's also dealing with the current governor of the state, who happens to be Governor Odudo. So, put them together, one woman dealing with 3 people. And to top it all up, her security detail.
3 highly connected.
3 highly
Nigerian
connected.
men.
Because if you live in Nigeria, you know what we were saying by that word. And her security detail was taken from her. Remember the argument at in the National Assembly where the Senate President said, one of the senators had stood up and said, possibly they should take away her security. She's still a senator. So why would you take away her security detail? And if that, as we hear, was done, how would she move around? Obviously, she needs to get a private security.
She's exposed to danger.
Of course, to protect her. But then again, we saw this story. I have a mixed feeling about this story, personally.
Why do you?
My mixed feeling is, we don't know who they are. We don't know if they were set, because they're unknown gunmen. We don't know if they were sent. We don't know if they just decided to do it on their own. We don't know if the story really has. We don't really have the true detail of this story.
No, we don't.
That's what I feel.
So
But
that's
the
why
truth
she's
is-
calling on the police to
Yes.
carry out their investigation.
Yes.
And it's important. I think it's very important that the police carries out an investigation and gets to the bottom of the case, because, like you said, we really don't know. It could be anybody. It could be, yes, her allegations might be pointing to what the truth is. It could also be somebody who knows the Senate president is under fire and wants to make him look bad for it. You know, and then
that is where I was going
then
to.
carry this out.
That's where I was going to.
Put
you know.
accusing fingers.
So you don't really know.
Point a finger or put a target on his back. So we really don't know what the position is. The most important thing for us is that she's safe, her family is safe. We hope that this will be investigated, that the perpetrators will be brought to book, and that her security detail will be tightened. You know, that's really what our concern is for her now. We certainly wish her all the best, and we hope that this can be brought to rest in the nearest possible future.
Absolutely.
But now let's
Absolutely.
move on to our final story. Now, this final story, quite interesting one, talking about so there was a report. The report was stating that a number of Nigerians did not trust the government. I did see that report, and it was a trust barometer talking about how 7 in 10 Nigerians, I believe, did not trust the fact that
That's a huge trust deficit.
So I'm going to actually look at the exact one. We're talking about the deficit, and I'm hoping that we can go into the details of this at a much later
And I think
conversation.
one of the reasons why I think government says something, they don't follow through their promises. Politicians promise heaven on earth during electioneering campaigns.
Absolutely. And talking about trust, just yesterday, there was a huge circular. I think I saw that circular in the evening yesterday that the police were able to arrest a huge, let me use the word huge number of Boko Haram members in Lagos. That story spread so much like wildfire yesterday. They said the police officers arrested them. They were spotted. These were members of, Boko Haram and so on, and they were wondering how they got into Lagos. So the police swung into action and so on. But the update simply is that this morning the police have debunked arrest of Boko Haram members, or Boko Haram, if you put it that way, like the story was circulating in Lagos. They say that story does not exist. It was not
So the
in any
circular
way going to happen.
The circular that was out yesterday was signed by.
So that story, they said it wasn't real. It wasn't true. It was fake. That's why they came out to put it out there and say, listen, there's no such story in Lagos. There's nothing like that ever happened. And it's gotten everyone talking. Is it true? Is it a lie? Are we starting to see insecurity trickle down? Let me say this here. The fear of mixing politics with reality is that it could boomerang and start to spin off things that are unexpected.
And it blurs the line. So you don't know what is the actual situation.
So we're now politicizing stories, looking at the fact that we're already dealing with insecurity issues. As far as we know, in the southwest, in the southeast, in the middle belt, in the up north, we're dealing with that. So is this also going to drive attention to the fact that we also have the same problem in somewhere in the southwest as well, which happens to be the economic capital of Nigeria?
The responsible thing for the police to do is what they've done, but we need more details. It's one thing to release a statement saying, we debunk the arrest of Boko Haram in Lagos, but it's another thing to give detailed analysis. Trace where this rumor emanated from. Give assurance to the populace that there's nothing like this. Assuade the citizens that Lagos is open for business. There are no security threats. We've done a thorough investigation. And what people might have thought was Boko Haram is XYZ.
That's right.
Well, failure to do that, you only leave room for speculations. It's beyond just releasing a statement.
Absolutely. Let me quickly run through that statement for the benefit of our viewers there. It says that hundreds of Boko Haram suspects arrested in Lagos. Well, the Lagos State Police Command writes to debunk a Punch newspaper, publication that was dated April 17, 2025, asserting that hundreds of Boko Haram suspects have been arrested in Lagos. Now, following the publication, the Commissioner of Police, Lagos State Command, CP Olohundare Jimo, directed an immediate investigation into the report to actually ascertain the true position of the claim. Now, it went on to say the outcome of the investigation revealed that there is nowhere throughout Lagos State that the group mentioned in the report Boko Haram was seen or indeed cited, talking about even arrested. So I think it calls for us to be very careful on how we share stories, especially on that platform, WhatsApp. You know, when messages drop there, you know, before the message, you know, goes to the third person, to the 10th, it's changed. The narration has changed. Because it was a Punch article on the 17th, and before it gets to the 10th person, they say, oh, Boko Haram suspects spotted. And I saw that yesterday. Someone sent it to me.
We just need to be careful, you know, with sharing messages, because we know that even our moms, our parents are very interested with WhatsApp. Once it gets to them, I know how many times I've had to tell my mother, Mommy, that's fake news. This is wrong. This is not true. Especially Facebook people.
My mother has used me as a fact checker. She sends it to me. She said, Benga, is this true? And I like that. That's a good one.
Facebook is such a wonderful platform. A number of these platforms are wonderful, but some of the people on these platforms are the ones that manipulated information. So please, all those people that are doing it for clicks, because you know people are going to pay. Set our own cloud chasers. People need to calm down. Because the ones that are giving media a bad name, making media going back to that trust, and I'm sure we'll have that conversation much later. There was a report that showed that individuals, 70% of Nigerians didn't trust government, and that they didn't trust media as well, and they believe that there's an intention to deliberately mislead the public. And it is stories like this that further, you know, heighten such. So please, let's do better, all right?
And permit me to also give a shout out to the police. You know, while we're talking about the police in a bad light, not doing well, in the case of the young lad who was arrested indiscriminately. The police, when they heard about the Boko Haram story, after taking a look at it in the Punch, and find that it wasn't true, they didn't leave it just like that. They swung into action. They deployed a few investigators who went round, and they were able to say there was no such thing. So we give kudos to that. I mean, it's much more like saying, oh, yes, we heard, and nothing was done. But we heard, and we can ascertain that there's nothing, because we combed every single place. That's it. And finally, just to add, guys, Nigeria is tensed now. So we have to be careful and mindful of the stories that we see and hear. If you don't hear it from News Central, if it's not clarified here as well, or any fact-checking platform, please be very careful. There's disinformation and misinformation out there. You might as well be part of those who is heating up the polity by sending wrong messages or information on news that isn't true. And I'm sure we have a program here on News Central that helps you to indeed fact-check stories, which is the proof. So make sure you watch it, all right?
And Olive, shout out to you for defending journalists by using that trust barometer index. I hope you're not suffering from partisan obscurantism.
That shout out to our guest, what's his name? Demola. Yes. I love our guests. They come and they teach us new words. But thank you so much for joining us this morning on Wake Up Conversations, and we hope that you're enjoying your Easter holiday. But stay with us for the next 2 hours, a little over 2 hours. We will be taking you through some of the biggest stories in Nigeria. Let's share with you what the top stories are. This morning on Breakfast Central, reps to punish CBEX promoters over fraudulent scheme. Analyzing Nigeria's power sector, will be joined by an expert to explore these conversations. IG unveils police intelligence school in Kwara. Kudos to the Nigerian police. Reps schedules or rescheduled session with Rivers sole administrator. And the newspaper front pages will form the core of our conversations this morning. You can also call in then. Join us for all this and more.
Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. Let's tell you that tensions remain high in Rivers State following the suspension of Governor Siminalayi Fubara and the State Assembly by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and the subsequent appointment of a sole administrator to manage the state's affairs for 6 months. Now, what began a local political crisis has now ignited national debate, triggering protests, political reactions, and federal intervention, including the National Assembly, and not forgetting too legislative oversight of the entire state. Now, a planned interactive session between the House of Representatives, ad hoc committee, and the Rivers State sole administrator has now been rescheduled following a formal request for postponement. Our correspondent has been following this story. Idong Joseph tells us more.
It all began with a political bombshell on March 18th, when the Rivers State Governor, his deputy, and the entire State Assembly were suspended by President Bola Tinubu following allegations of constitutional violations and escalating political unrest. The president's decision, backed by a proclamation order from the National Assembly to stabilize the state, sparked swift reactions, including protests from civil society groups and political observers questioning the legality and constitutionality of the move.
We, the women of Rivers State, under the umbrella of Rivers Women Unite Prayer Group, strongly reiterate our unwavering demand for the immediate termination of the unconstitutional and unjust emergency rule currently imposed on our dear state.
While federal lawmakers maintain that their intervention was aimed at preserving law and order, critics argue that President Tinubu's decision, supported by the National Assembly, to suspend both the executive and legislative arms of government in Rivers State set a terrible precedent for our address democracy.
The task before this committee is not routine. It is a mission of national significance that will serve as a litmus paste for our commitment to democratic principles and constitutional governance.
The creation of an ad hoc committee to oversight governance in the state was a move to ensure transparency and maintain the rule of law. The committee extended an invitation to the sole administrator, Vice Admiral Ibok Ete Ibas, retired, for an interactive session. However, the session, scheduled to hold just hours later, was abruptly postponed. According to a statement by the House spokesperson Akin Rotimi, the sole administrator formally requested a postponement, which the committee accepted, though a new date is yet to be announced. With growing public pressure and renewed calls for a return to constitutional order in Rivers State, all eyes are now on the National Assembly's next move, as it seeks to balance oversight with legality. In Abuja for News Central, Idong Joseph.
Tensions are still high in Rivers State. We will continue to follow up with the story and the updates regarding the sole administrator. But now, let's come back to talk about CBEX and the promoters and exactly what is going on with CBEX. Now, this it's regarded as Nigeria's financial landscape that has experienced a fraudulent scheme. This scheme has left thousands stranded and billions of naira have been trapped. The Securities and Exchange Commission is taking decisive action against CBEX promoters. CBEX, also known as Crypto Bridge Exchange, promised investors high returns, 100%, within just 30 days. But behind the glittering facade was a web of deceit. The platform abruptly shut down, leaving investors unable to access their funds. The Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, has confirmed that CBEX was never registered or authorized to operate in Nigeria, and those involved in the fraudulent scheme would face sanctions. Joining us for today's discussion is Dr. Naimeka Obiari, investment banker and public affairs analyst. Good morning, Mr. Obiari. Thank you very much for joining us on the show this morning.
Thanks for having me. I think I can rightly say, Olive, sorry to butt in, that Dr. Obiari, you have been summoned to appear before us on this CBEX case.
I think a good way to start the conversation would be to ask, from your perspective, what policy loopholes existed to land us in what would be regarded as Nigeria's largest fraudulent scheme so far?
Olive, you know, it's a very interesting and a very funny thing when I see SEC saying, okay, CBEX was not registered with SEC and all those stuff. And the truth is, Olive, we are living in a very lawless environment. You know, when people say Nigeria is an active crime scene, it's not an understatement, because the level we are in Nigeria is a state of lawlessness. We're even talking about CBEX. What of the Security and Exchange Commission between 2008 to 2010, 2007 to 2008, a lot of SEC licensed outfits that raised money from the capital market. At the end of the day, investors were defrauded, certificate not issued, dividend not paid, or that they agreed based on the scheme of arrangements and prospectus that raised the offer. We are not adhered to. Some people raise the monies to go to other countries to go and set up banks. Monies raised here from Nigeria, what the SEC do. So when we talk about, oh, are there laws and regulations, CBEX will still happen. You see, the same guys that defrauded Nigerians, the CBEX, if they should change their name now to CBEX, they will still defraud Nigerians and they will get away. It's before CBEX, we had CHIMAC, we have Voyager, we have MM1, we had other things. It's a state of lawlessness. It's a place where there are two different laws. Laws for the poor and laws for the privileged class, the ones I call elitist bandits, who can get away with anything as long as they can be able to sort themselves out with the relevant authorities. And that is so unfortunate. Now, it again speaks to the gullibility of a majority of Nigerians. It again speaks to greed. Because I don't see why on how anybody can promise you 100% return on investment within days and weeks, and you never bother to find out where was this. And again, it speaks to our level of ethics and morality. I cannot sit here, even without being an experienced investment banker. Somebody calls me and says, I have an investment that can give me 300%, 100% in 6 weeks. If you know the secret to making 100% in 2 weeks, why do you want to share it with me? Why don't you just go making all the monies so that you will become as wealthy as Elon Musk? The truth is, what has happened with CBEX and what will still happen speaks to the fact that we live in a lawless society, an active crime scene, a society where the level of knowledge, illiteracy is so low, where ignorance works on many, places around. And it again speaks to our value system. The same promoters of CBEX, just watch, in 6 months it will die down. They will go receive chieftaincy titles. They will go to the relationship center. They'll be given front view. That is where we are today. Whether licensed by SEC or licensed by SEC, we here in this country, we see even many licensed by SEC working on impunity. What has happened?
Dr. Barry, are you saying now that there is no regulatory framework that can be put in place to ensure that we do not have a reoccurrence of such magnitude? Regardless of how big it is?
SEC dropping the ball?
Olive, Nigeria is not short of laws. Nigeria is not short of regulatory provisions to stop this kind of thing. What we have here is the weakness of the law enforcement transmission mechanism in Nigeria. Only before us, we've seen the massacre going on in Plateau State. Yes, some people had the guts to hold press conferences justifying the killing, even threatening security agencies and demanding for disbandment and all those stuff. Only what happened? Were they arrested? Somebody admitted genocide openly on national TV. Even gave orders of what should be done. Give ultimatum. In a country where we have security agencies, have the man been arrested? Is it the first time? Is the man being prosecuted? I say to you, we are not short of laws. But the truth is, we live in a nation of lawlessness. We live in a nation where you have different laws for different set of people, for different sets of ethnic nationalities, for different set of people with different status. And that is the problem. We have laws, but those laws are not being respected, not being executed, not being implemented because of the level of impunity and lawlessness. In any society where there is lawlessness, where you have different regime of laws and regulations for different class of people based on their status, their race, their ethnicity, their color or gender, such nation will never make progress. And that is where we are today. This is the only country where we romance terrorists, we buy them trucks, we give them money, we rehabilitate them. In places like China, in places like Russia, you don't, in places like Israel, you don't tolerate it. Once you buy the market, you sell it. But here in Nigeria, we try to devise every manner of excuses to tolerate impunity, tolerate lawlessness, tolerate iniquity, and it continues to fester.
Now, Dr. Obiari, if I may come in here, just to take you back a bit, let's talk about the personalities involved here. You did mention ignorance and education as part of the reasons why this happened and why some Nigerians still fall for this sort of get-rich-quick schemes. And you're very pessimistic. You believe this will still happen again in a few months' time, that we never learn our lessons. Nigerians always pride themselves as, very sharp people, educated, very street smart and wise. Why do these sorts of schemes seem to attract so many Nigerians? And when somebody promises 100% return in just 30 days, from your experience, why do such unrealistic promises still manage to convince some people despite their educational achievements and levels? You'll be surprised that there are a number of professors and PhD holders that have fallen victim to this sort of scheme.
Like I said, it speaks to our greed as a people. It is one thing to be certificated as a professor. It is also another thing to have the basic knowledge, to have the basic smartness, to be able, the basic intelligence to ask the right questions. You don't even ask this question. As I'm talking to you now, there are many CBEX schemes going on in Nigeria today. Many. And like as I'm telling you, talking to you now, within the next 6 months, other CBEX will come up and Nigerians will also fall into it. And again, we'll talk about literacy and illiteracy. The level of literacy in Nigeria is so low. I've always said it. You know the level of, go and look at the top, I said, look at the top 10 industrialized, most secured, most orderly countries of the whole world. With a life expectancy of 78, 83 years, you will see one common thing. Their literacy level is up to 98%. Literacy in mind, literacy in character, literacy in soundness of judgment. And that is why they're also able to recruit the right leadership and they enforce their laws because you cannot circumvent it. Look around you. The same China we are praising today, China was worse than Nigeria in 1980. Today, see where China is. They prioritize literacy, education, and knowledge acquisition. Real knowledge, not certificates. You ask yourself this question, how did we get to where we are today? You say professors, is it not in this same country? Who are those that conduct elections? Who are those that supervises the elections in Nigeria? Who are those that contribute to the mess we are today? Because if we have a selection process that puts in the right people with the right mindset, with the right ethical mindset, with the right integrity, with the right knowledge, in the right places in our MDAs and the arms and the tiers of government, Nigeria will not be where we are today. But the same people will gather during the election, collect bribe, rigging those that will destroy their lives. For the remaining 4 years, they will lament. I say it here and I just repeat it again. As a governor or a president, the minimum pay salary for a teacher, primary, secondary, and the university level is $500,000 minimum. And 25% of our budgets, whether borrowed or earned, must be invested in education, both in quality and in infrastructure. That is how nations develop. And these teachers are supposed to be the ones looking out to do the right things, just like Professor Noti. But in Nigeria, the same people you call professors, the same people you think are educated, are the ones, sorry to use this word, there's a theory called Carlos Cipollo theory of the stupids. And the Carlos Cipollo theory of the stupids say that a stupid person is not an unintelligent person. A stupid person is a person that makes decisions, makes choices that hurts both himself and the society. And that is where we are today. The truth is, nobody who is truly literate, nobody who has acquired knowledge and is found worthy in character and in learning will fall for this CBEX madness.
Well, yesterday, I stumbled on a few persons who were angry. They were sad that they had invested a lot in CBEX and they didn't get anything out of it. So they're hoping that the government would help them. But that's by the way. What do you think about the Security Exchange Commission? Because while going through the entire story, I was able to meet someone who actually invested into the business. and some footage was shared with me, many of them, which I'd like to put on the screen if I can. It also, one of them showed that they organized conferences, as you can see there. They also have groups on Telegram, and I was also made to know that in as much as CBEX has crashed, the same company opened another one and called it an elite one and told people to enter and start, put in money, and people were rushing to do the same thing regardless of the fact that it had crashed. But my question to you is this: is there a possibility that the Security Exchange Commission had no iota of knowledge about CBEX? Or is it a case of maybe there's some internal persons who were supporting these fraudulent activities? Because you've been an investment banker for years, you know about investment and the policies. Is it possible that companies like this can thrive or could thrive for a long time, and the Security Exchange Commission says they have no idea of who they are?
The truth is, let us also cut SEC some slack. SEC may not even have the requisite manpower to enforce and stop most of these Ponzi games. SEC, as a commission, does not have powers like the EFCC. I expected that Security and Exchange Commission, for them to even have more teeth, they should also have an enforcement arm with powers like the EFCC that can prosecute. The same thing we talked about INEC, that INEC should have an enforcement and prosecution arm like EFCC that can arrest, prosecute, and we also advocated, it's not just, we are not short of laws. The independence of these agencies are also very, very important. For the sake of INEC, we suggested clearly that this issue of allowing the presidency to control INEC will not work. We suggested that under an arrangement where all the three arms of government will have an input, where the Nigeria Judicial Commission, NJC, will be the one that will accept nominations from people about 6 people from 6 regions. NJC will sit down, vet them, forward the names of 3 of them or 2 of them to the presidency. Then the presidency will select from what NJC has submitted and then send it to the National Assembly, who will approve or disapprove with 2/3 majority. And of course, we even also came to so where such kind of checks and balances in place. It will be difficult for one person to just pick pliant people based on nepotism, based on who will work to their intentions and their plans, which most times are negative. So that is where we are. The issue is not SEC. Like I said, SEC have their force. I give you examples of many companies between 2007 to 2010 that came to Nigeria, played Ponzi games, stripped Nigerians of their monies. That is why today the capital market does not have any debt. Our capital market is capitalized to just about less than $50 billion. South African capital market is about $1.3 trillion. You can now see the difference between us and South Africa because there are regulations, there are processes, and those regulations are enforced, like in the US. In Nigeria, there is no enforcement of regulation. And the SEC does not even have the capacity to judge on their own. If we want SEC and INEC to work efficiently, we must create an enforcement arm of SEC, just like EFCC, that can go out, search out this kind of thing, arrest people, prosecute them without going to the EFCC or the police to do it for them. The same thing for the INEC. INEC must also have an enforcement commission, independent commission, that can prosecute electoral offenders, independent of the police, EFCC, or any of these other security agencies. Until we do this, it will be wasted. See, as I tell you, see, it's a lawless society. It starts pouring from the top. Look around you, Olive. Look around you, what happens in Nigeria. Look around you. The other day, a video was circulating. A Chinese man was giving money to Nigerian police people, and people are blaming the police people. How much do we pay our police? The average policeman in America, the average military man in America, they have their lives insured. They have health insurance scheme covering everything, them and their families. If an American soldier falls today, or American policeman falls today, he is sure that his family will receive nothing less than $100,000 as compensations. Today, how much are we even paying the policemen? There is no policeman that should earn anything less than 300,000 naira. If we are very, very sincere, you equip somebody, give him uniform, give him arms, and you don't even pay him enough to even feed, and he has families, and you expect the man to begin to live like an angel. Let's keep deceiving ourselves in this country.
All right. I would like you to first of all speak to the effectiveness of Nigerian law enforcement agencies such as the EFCC collaborating with foreign intelligence operations like the Interpol, and the possibility of the recovery of this song. Is there really any hope for Nigerians who have been defrauded, or should they just move on with their lives and find ways to cope?
EFCC said they will get their money.
Only before CBEX, there was MM1, there was CHIMAC, and many other ones that have happened. Please, can you show me any track record of recovery? These guys do these things with impunity because they know that this is the only place they can do it and get away. If you do it in China, they will put you on an electric chair. There's no debate about it. If you do it in Russia, you're gone. You can't try this even in Singapore or other places. They do it here because they understand the system. It's a very corrupt system, an active crime scene where people with the wealth and the means can live, with impunity and audacity, and they will get away. Everything about us in this land is so painful, it's heartbreaking. A country that is with so much promises and potentials, we see this kind of things. And I also say Nigerians will also ask questions. Somebody who is promising you heaven and earth is not living in heaven. Ask them, why will somebody promise you 100% on investment on 60 days? And again, we also need to question the source of the funding of those who invested in those places. I cannot labor 9 to 6 p.m. I cannot labor building businesses that add value to Nigerians. Then I will raise money and I will go and invest in a scheme that will give me 100% return on investment without understanding the value add and process. We need to also investigate the source of the fundings that went into that CBEX, because no man who truly work hard, no man who truly earned money with value, honest enterprise attached to it, will just throw away money anyhow. The truth is, and like I said it, look around you. If you come to Banana Island, if you go to Lekki, you will see many buildings locked up, empty. It's all money laundering funds. And we've suggested on the ways we can make laws to help us stop money laundering in Nigeria. And the governments are not listening. I give you an example. If you want to stop money laundering, any company registering in CAC, anybody registering properties in Nigeria, or registering buying high-end car registering, must include their TIN, their BVN, and their name. All the directors, when you do this, it will be easy for you to track money flowing illicitly into society. But today in Nigeria, we refuse to go the right ways. We refuse to plug the loopholes. We give open the rooms for this kind of crime to happen because those who purport to lead and govern us love criminality, love chaos, love anarchy, and that is why we are where we are today.
What really is the role? What role do several industries, organizations and individuals have to play, to ensure that this doesn't happen? And I want you to speak to the roles of banks in helping to prevent fraudulent investments such as these, the role of, us as a nation to encourage financial literacy. Now, recall that EFCC had said that there was a time they published a list of 58 Ponzi schemes, but I don't know that a number of people knew about this. So let's talk about the roles of the law enforcement agencies, how we can encourage financial literacy, and even the influencers who have to, get paid to promote some of these schemes. How can they ensure due diligence, and how can they understand the importance and depth of the role that they play in convincing Nigerians to be a part of these schemes?
Olive, my basic understanding as a banker with over 2 decades experience is that the role of bankers is to provide financial intermediation between surplus economic units and deficit economic units, and they just make a spread. And in any country, look around you, the banks grow in the same direction as the growth in the economy and as the growth in the real sector of the economy. Where the real sector of the economy is not doing well, the productive sector of the economy is not doing well, enterprise is not doing well, you see the bank's income and revenue also tanking. But in Nigeria, it's the opposite. In a dying economy, in an economy where companies are folding up and liquidating, banks are declaring trillions and trillions and trillions of naira profit. And if you look at the underlying revenue waterfall, you will see clearly where the problem is. You ask yourself, who are those that helps the public office holders to launder money? believe there can be no public sector corruption in Nigeria without the bankers. There can be no private sector corruption in Nigeria without the bankers. If the banks in Nigeria are doing their job, their core professional job, without acting as conduits for those who do what they do, we won't be where we are today. And that is the truth. I say it and I say it again. If we're able to reform and eliminate corruption from the civil service and public sector, it's not even the politicians, because the politicians cannot steal without those in the public sector, the career civil servants, showing them how to steal. If we can execute a reform in the banking system and make the financial services industry to become what it's supposed to be and what it is meant to be, if we can execute a reform in our security agencies and put in place some of these little suggestions, I've said it, and make every Nigerian a whistleblower, and amend the CCB Act in such a way that every public office holder must compulsorily declare their assets before accession of office. And there will be a public portal where it will be announced, this is what I have declared. He that does not want the heat should not enter the kitchen. Nobody's forcing you to go into public office. Stay in your private sector. And then we will create a whistleblowing provision in the Constitution where every Nigerian become a whistleblower. If you blow a whistle that reveals a stolen asset by a public office holder, you will get 20% of the proceed. Even the policeman will become whistleblower. You cannot, a policeman cannot arrest you for stealing 1 billion. You will give him 10 million. No, because he knows he's going to get 200 million by doing the right thing. You don't dare, because you're wasting your time stealing, because Nigerians will blow the whistle. Even your driver will blow the whistle. Your domestic staff will blow the whistle. Even your children will blow the whistle. But we know what to do. We are not doing it. Because those who purport to lead us know that an orderly society where there are processes, where there are laws and orders, where there are transparent mechanisms of unraveling corruption and wickedness, that they may not have the power and the ability to get to where they are today. Chaos, disorderliness, corruption enables them to sit and continue to sit on power. Now, if we put in place laws and orders like we had it in the 60s, most of the people we have today, 90% of them will not come anywhere like the seat of power and authority.
Now, finally, Dr. Nameri, how can the Nigerian financial system build the trust and transparency to reduce the appeal of these get-rich-quick platforms?
Please, can you come again?
How can the Nigerian financial system help to reduce the appeal of this get-rich-quick Ponzi schemes and that we see come up every other few months? And your final advice to Nigerians?
It is for them to choose to do the right thing, stand for the right thing, and make sure that the right things are done. And that is the truth. You know, I've always said it here. I said there is no Nigerian who is a victim. We are all collectively part of the rot in Nigeria. There was something Pastor Enoch Adeboye said, and I believe in that. If there are 4 men in a room, each of them have AK-47, and 3 are righteous men, and 1 is an armed robber, and the armed robber said he wants to rob, there are 2 things he will do. He either leave town, or the 3 will liquidate him. But if there are 4, and they all have AK-47, and 3 are armed robbers, and the other 1 is just a righteous man, he will just carry his gun and leave town. Because if he starts there to begin to question them, they will liquidate him. A majority of us in Nigeria love corruption. We love it so much, because that is truth. See, those who are corrupt, those who are winners, our brothers, our uncles, our aunts, our fathers, our mothers, our church people, our mosque people, we know them. So you see somebody who does that, and you guys equity each other. We worship in wickedness and iniquity, and that is why we are. If a majority of us decide today, just like Professor Nim wrote in the United States, we don't want to be part of this wickedness, this country will be reset.
Dr. Nneka Obiareri, thank you for your time with us. We look forward to having you again. Hopefully not to discuss another fraudulent scheme that Nigerians have fallen into. It's really sad. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I honestly cannot imagine the depth of the influence this has caused in the lives of people, and people who might have, I was hearing stories I cannot confirm about certain people who it has affected the quality of their lives, the quality of their health. Because people have 20 years everything that they have into this, and it's really sad.
Well, you have families, you have couples, you have entire families who decided to even put their children's savings. Yeah, their children's savings. Because like I said, if you look at the breakdown of CBEX, CBEX is just the app, it's a platform, okay? And then they're working with another platform known as the SC. What they do is they're the ones who run the AI investment program for you. They take 1% of your money you've invested in, and they ensure that they put it into the investment program. It yields profits. They return the profits back to you. They reinvest the other one. So basically back and forth. It looked so beautiful and so good to be true that I think Nigerians should start thinking. But what I'm saying, and what I picked from Dr. Barry's statement, is that he said if another one comes, this is CBEX. If they say CBEC, Nigerians will still go into
I think EFCC, with all due respect, they're making a bad situation worse.
Yes.
The worst thing you can do is give hope. The EFCC spokesperson has been doing media rounds, and he said CBEX victims will get their money back. And Dr. Obiari rightly said it. If you look at the history of Ponzi schemes in Nigeria, from LMN to all the ones we've seen, have you heard of anyone recovering their funds? So don't do that, especially at this point in time.
And that's a way for law enforcement to foster. I mean, we did start the show talking about the break of trust, speaking to the Indian Trust Barometer. At the end of the day, if you continue to make promises that you cannot keep, you're then showing that you're a person not to be trusted. The trust divide will continue to widen.
You're also encouraging people to keep doing it, because you get your money it goes wrong. Yes, I don't know why EFCC will fight for me.
Yeah, I mean, I had gone through lists, the names from 10 years ago. When I look at the names here, it's numbering up to about 30.
Wow. And
they've continued, and guess what country? In this country, Nigeria.
We must focus 30. On voter education, on financial literacy, ensuring. Yes, EFCC said they had published 58 names of Ponzi schemes.
So many.
List. What they need to do is, when the same way the EFCC spokesperson is doing media rounds now talking about this, what should have been done was, the media round should have been done earlier to forewarn people.
Exactly.
Saying, look, these are certain Ponzi schemes. Yes. These are their names. Avoid them. So they're being reactive as opposed to, sort of thinking of what should have been done much earlier. We need to be proactive and not reactive.
But it's sad. Have you not noticed that we rather do things last minute? We're last minute people. Let's be honest. Fire brigade approach is kind of like
medicine after death
in our DNA. We like that. Weddings last minute. You're going out for a meeting last minute. Hence why you have some people who tell you, no, I don't do last minute. My 9 a.m. is 9 a.m. And that shows. We've talked about orientation. We've talked about this many times. In short, the election is in 2027. I mean, this is the right time to start sensitizing the public ahead of the election.
The politicians already,
don't wait till it's 3-6 months. By sensitization, we're not talking about the political parties campaigning. We're just talking about you as INEC, as an organization. Exactly. Teaching people now. Same thing with the fraudulent schemes. Go out there, start educating people. You made I think that's like the best point that they should take home. Start now. The same way you're going for media rounds, medicine after death, do it before it happens. The same thing applies to every single sector. Whether it's the power sector, it's the health sector, prevention and so on, name them. Same thing. What has changed? We're told by NIMET that we should expect floods. Guess what? Like I said yesterday, the gutters they just started cleaning the gutters like 2 weeks ago or so on, in very precarious areas or dangerous areas that that once the flood comes, it's going to sack or chase everybody away from their homes. Why didn't you do this since? Since? Why didn't you inform the people since?
Before the
I think just like the doctors would often say, prevention is better than cure. We need to be a more proactive nation. But let's move away from CBEX to talk about power. Nigeria's Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, says that the recent tariff hike by the ministry generated over 700 billion naira in 2024 alone. The minister made this known during the ministerial scorecard series in Abuja, where he assured Nigerians that the era of frequent grid collapse is over, and the people of God said amen. He says that the ministry has already set in motion plans for mass metering for citizens to close the gap in electricity billing. Let's take a look.
But with the tariff review that was implemented in 2024, The revenue grew from 1 trillion 2023 to 1.7 trillion, which is 700 billion increase. And this is the result from the cost-reflective tariff adjustment for Band A customers. And we have just done this for 15% of Nigerian electricity consumers. As of today, if we grow our generation to 8,700 megawatts, the grid can still carry it. Thanks to the activities of the TCN and the FGM Power Company. 2 years ago, once it gets to 5,000, the grid collapses. Then we have evacuated 5,800 successfully without the grid blinking. We have completed the procurement process of DISREP. 75,000 meters have already arrived in April, and we are expecting additional 200,000 meters in the month of May. Before the end of this year, 1.3 million meters will come from the World Bank funded DISREP program.
Well, we look forward to not hearing conversations about the grid collapse. You know, that is something that we don't want to make jokes about because it's not funny. The impact is very far-reaching. But
and also the exorbitant charges, because the deputy governor of Lagos State said his monthly charge was about 2-point-something million.
Somebody was
now 20-something. I mean, look at that gap. So even a public official is complaining. So imagine what
the masses. I saw someone who complained about using 250,000 naira, former Miss Nigeria. She was like, how exactly is it? She called out AEDC saying they'll use 250,000 in 4 days. Make it make sense.
I mean, people are now paying some people up. Their electricity bill is more than their rent. Yeah. So
it's giving like US service charge and rent are doing competition.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Nigeria's 2023 presidential candidate under the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has donated the sum of 2 million naira to internally displaced persons of the Bokos violent attacks of April the 2nd that left many people killed and immeasurable amount of property destroyed. Peter Obi, who made the disclosure when he visited surviving victims of the dastardly act in Bokos local government area of the state, said there was no need for the barbaric act. News Central's Chizo Banyonwe was on his entourage and now tells us more.
Mr. Peter Obi was also the former governor of Anambra State. His visit to commiserate with the victims of the Bokos attack began with a condolence visit on the governor of Plateau State, Caleb Mutfwang, at the government house in Jos, the state capital.
We have no reason for the country to be going through this. We have no reason for people to be chased out of their communities that are in the country. War. This is a country that is at war. And I know that people know reasons behind this, and it has to be solved. People must live in their communities, be able to go to their farms, live a life that is protected by government of Nigeria.
The governor, who termed the incident as deliberate and planned attack, maintained that now is the time to put an end to it.
We've been playing with this matter as a nation for over 2 decades. The time has come when there must be a big consensus that this has to stop. If we don't wake up to stop it now, we may wake up and find out we have no country to call our own. May God forbid that.
For Peter Obi, the incident remains unacceptable as it calls on government to end the sad trend.
Well, I think the government needs to do more. They don't want to solve it. If they want to solve it, it will be solved. We can't have a situation where people, criminals, and non-state actors will take over our country. It is unacceptable. So now we have a country or we don't. People must look into this, look into what is causing it. We cannot say it's impossible.
He had earlier visited Our Lady of Apostles College of Nursing Sciences in Jos and the School for the Internally Displaced Children in Bokos, where he donated 10 million naira and 5 million naira respectively for their upkeep. In Plateau State, for News Central, Chizoba Anyui.
Guys, sad development there. I mean, the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, who should be making all those rounds, is still in Paris for reasons best known to him, and we've been sending condolence messages since. But we'll get into the conversation proper. Let's talk about insecurity in Nigeria and the way forward. Today, we're tackling one of Nigeria's most pressing challenges, perhaps one of the biggest challenges the country is currently dealing with, the challenges of insecurity. From banditry to kidnappings, the nation has faced a relentless wave of terror. In this month of April, we have reported scores killed on April the 3rd. Many were kidnapped and some kidnapped in Benue State. On April the 13th, about 50 people were reported killed in Jos, Plateau State, following a previous attack.
Well, more protests have emerged in several states over insecurity, and many have wondered why the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces is on holiday at a time like this. However, with unveiling of the Police Intelligence School in Kwara, is there a glimmer of hope? Joining us today for this discussion is security expert Dennis Makri, who joins us at this moment. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Good morning.
Great. Let's go straight into the stories. I'm aware, and I know that you are equally aware of what's been happening so far so good in Nigeria in the space of a month or 2 months, in the space of 2 months rather. And what would you make of the insecurity that Nigerian states are indeed facing, from the middle belt to the north, and of course spreading like a wildfire? What's your take on it?
Thank you for having me. You know, this case of insecurity in Nigeria, I think is becoming like a broken record. We've talked about this so many years, so many months about what is happening. And it is following the same pattern. You know, we allow bandits or terrorists to attack villages, kill Nigerians, and then run away and don't get them again. They kidnap our people and stuff like that. And then, of course, you find a normal political concert where, you know, politicians will come and make statements. Oh, it will not happen again. And then, of course, we have Inspector General of Police will come also, and then maybe deploy some policemen over there, and then they will be there for a while. After maybe 2-3 weeks, they're all withdrawn back to their bases or withdrawn to another area, another theater of war, and then life continues again until they hit again. So, are we systematically trying to solve this problem, or we're just being plain politics with it? I think that is where the question is. And personally, I'm worried because it is one that it looks like, you know, in perpetuity we're having this problem, and, you know, with no possible solution in view.
Is it a big deal? Nigerians have been criticizing the fact that the Commander-in-Chief is not in the country, that the President is not in the country when these challenges have come to light. Yes, it's not a new challenge, but there's been recent development in the past 2 weeks. And Nigerians have criticized the fact that the President is not in the country. Do Nigerians have a point? Is there a reason to be concerned, especially looking at the fact that the President had asked, or the Presidency had asked, that the government step up, governor of Plateau State should step up to ensure that they guarantee, you know, the safety and the security of the citizens?
Well, one thing is this. Nigerian leaders sometimes, you know, the optics are not very good when it comes to, you know, even doing public communication about things like this. But in actuality, you know, things like this are the responsibility of the governor of that state. We've come to a level where most governors shirk their responsibilities for the federal, you know, where they all wait for the federal to come. You remember when it comes to, if you listen to the governors, some of them will say, oh, I'm the CSO of my state, but I don't have the necessary, you know, equipment to deal with things like this. But that is not very true. The military is at their disposal, the police is at their disposal, and they can use them because, come to think about it, these people receive security votes every month, and these security votes run into billions. And now, how come they are not using them, and when there is an attack, they'll say it is federal government? We know at the federal has a lot to do too, but we want to see
Mr. Mackey, sorry to interrupt here.
State governors doing their thing.
Sorry to interrupt your comments, Mr. Mackey, but the current security architecture we have, the state governors can't issue commands to their police commissioners. The orders have to come from the Inspector General of Police, and I do not think that any state governor can order a garrison commander to move troops. They have to go through the proper chain of command. I believe it's in that sense that they say they're only chief security officers in names in defense of these governors.
Yes, of course. See, what many people don't understand is that the way it operates is different from what people come to talk on TV. You know, I was the director in Lagos State, and I know that every Monday morning at 8 o'clock, there's a state security council meeting, where in that meeting you have the head of the DSS, you have the head of police, the commissioner of police for that state. If there's a military, you know, formation there, the commander is there. Like in Lagos, we also have the commander of the Navy, the flag officer commanding the Western Naval Command will attend that meeting with us. Sometimes we have an NSCDC even attending, and we have that meeting to talk about all kinds of things, security issues, and the governor is the chairman. And after, you know, that meeting, everybody is giving their own assignment of what to do about the security situation, and we go. In fact, what happens is that after we finish doing what we have to do, you know, we inform the headquarters in Abuja that this is what came up in the national, in the state security meeting, and then of course this is what we are doing, what, you know, stuff like that. If the headquarters have additional instructions, they will give to us, and it is not the other way round. It is not after the meeting you go and tell the police now tell the IG that, look, oh, this is what they said, should we do it or not do it? No, that's not how it works.
Okay.
And all these people know about it. There's no state without a commissioner of police. So I think they should honor and do what they have to do.
All right. Let's look at one aspect that a lot of concerns have been raised. Do you think, in your years of being in the DSS, do you think that remuneration, payments, salaries to our security officers is okay? Do you think it's well enough that would, you know, move them to want to do more? Just this week, a video circulated online showing a police officer who was in tears, crying about the police station in which he indeed, you know, resides or works from, are being burnt down. And he was talking about the salaries that they were earning between 53 or 57,000, if my memory serves me right. Do you think that maybe if the government focuses on paying the officers well, if they earn good money, it would also motivate them to, want to do more and pay attention to detail, especially with insecurity starting to grow?
Yes, welfare of the people is one that is very, very key. Is more important than even the armaments that you have. I will explain. Now, if a well-motivated soldier, and motivation is not just salary, even the commander of a unit can be so motivate his people in such a way that they are fired up and they can be singing to war, very well motivated, and they don't care whether they are going to die or not. It doesn't have anything to do with salary. Now the Nigerian Army, in fact, many people might not even know what they pay the soldiers in the war front is an allowance. All their salaries are paid to their families. The salaries are paid to their family. The allowances are paid directly to them, wherever they are, which they can now use as pocket money. But coming to think about it, sometimes these monies are not released to the security agencies or the military, for them to do what they have to do. Now, you find out that sometimes the legislators will say, come, we are going to give you all the money that you need, go and do what you have to do, but that money is not coming.
Okay,
it's not coming. If it comes in fractions, because the money they are giving them sometimes cannot buy the equipment they are even supposed to buy. So that's what is happening.
A fine place to take a break, Mr. Makri. Sorry to interrupt you. We have to go for a quick ad break. We have quite a lot to unpack, and I have many questions I would like to ask you with regards to security. We'll go on a quick break, and when we return, Breakfast Central continues. Welcome back to Breakfast Central this morning, and we're discussing the high level of insecurity in Nigeria. Guest is Mr. Dennis Makri. Mr. Makri, I remember your opening statement today. I could sense a sort of disappointment. It felt like, you're even tired of discussing these issues because you reeled out what happens, the order of events. Disaster happens. The IG goes there, they commiserate their statements, condolences, the troops are deployed there for 3 weeks, there's a lull in the violence, and then the cycle repeats itself. We've been doing this for many years now. I recall doing interviews with you, discussing the same issues 100 times. How did we achieve the lull in violence? I mean, if you look at last year, up until this year, the security situation improved to a certain level, or was it underreported? And they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. So we often throw around buzzwords, security architecture, we need to do this and that. What needs to change? What are we not doing right so that we put an end to all this insecurity in the country once and for all? Is it achievable?
Of course, insecurity can be dealt with, and it could decrease, and that is very, very achievable. And I think the only problem is that there have to be a concerted effort. There have to be a concerted effort where we have to, the security agencies have to work together. You find out that, of course, if we have to put it on a graph, sometimes it goes up and then it comes all the way down, and then of course it starts to level out somewhere and stuff like that. When we had certain appointments in the security architecture, there you have, of course, sometimes the issues will go down, they will decrease, and then of course, when you have certain commanders leave, or like when we lost the chief of army staff, Labaja, it was a very sad one, and there are people, you see that you have certain increases coming up. And of course, when the security agencies or the chiefs are working together in tandem, of course, you will see a decrease. So there are other kinds of variables that affect, this up and down movement. But the thing is that it has remained up, and then it is not coming down. Basically, when we look at the indices, we'll discover that one of the major indices for security remaining up is because of the intervention of politicians into the security architecture. The president himself, when he first came, said that he was going to restructure the security architecture, and then of course do a lot of things about it. We are still waiting for HB 617 to go through. That is the one for state police. It has not been done. And then, or should I say that they are dragging their feet. We know that the National Assembly has passed some laws as fast, in a day or two, or within a week. But there are certain things to be done about this particular law, and it is not being done because either people are, not in full support. But if we don't have state police, we'll continue to rigmarole here. The ungoverned spaces in Nigeria will continue to be occupied by bandits, and then there is nothing we can do about it. We go through the circle of political statements and, and temporary deployment of police and stuff like that. So I think it is very, very important that there should be a concerted effort in dealing with this thing, and it has to be systemic. And then, of course, they should release all the monies that are, due to the security agencies so that they can do their job. We are talking of drones, for instance. MQ-9 Reaper drone, which is the standard, the standard Predator drone, is about $23 million.
Wow.
And it's not off the shelf. That means you pay and you wait. And that's just for one drone, one single drone. Now, if you don't do that, and then you tell, we'll give you all the money we want. Meanwhile, of course, the payment of legislators never got delayed. And you know how many millions one legislator is taking home. So we have to reorder that priority. Do we want to fight insecurity, or want to play politics with it? I think that's a decision that has to be taken.
Talking about politics and politicizing the insecurity situation that we have in the country, the Plateau State governor had mentioned genocide. He said the way the killings were going, it looked like it was genocide. I'd like to get your thoughts on that. And secondly, what do you make of the reintegration of Boko Haram, I'll call them, let's call them insurgents or repentant, Boko Haram members who have now been back into the system. Do you think that sends a clear message to these, insurgents that we truly, as a nation, are fighting against insecurity?
Now, this case in Plateau State and Benue State, in the Middle Belt generally, started as a herders farmers problem. The food basket of Nigeria is around that area. And of course, when they started doing this, so way back, 2019, we've been talking about this particular problem in the Middle Belt where it could cause food insecurity for us. Because that is where the food is coming. If farmers are not able to go to farm to do what they have to do, then there will be lack of food, and you can feel it in the markets in Lagos. So it is very, very important that these farmers go and do their job. And in fact, you can even try to make it mechanized, because this hoe and knife thing is not working anymore as the population increases. And then you have cattle coming in there, eating up all the crops of people, and then just going through with impunity and, moving on the road and doing all kinds of things. And the farmers are frustrated. So what do you expect? They also sometimes retaliate by killing some cows. And then, of course, herders usually believe that the cows are like their family members. And if you kill one, they also will have to retaliate, that kind of thing. And that was what we were having before. Retaliatory killings and stuff like that. But there is a new variable that has come into play right now, and that is the incursion of foreigners into the area. And these foreigners are basically, people who are non-Nigerians, let me put it that way. Because foreigners does not necessarily mean Europeans or Americans. These are non-Nigerians from other African countries that have moved in because of our porous borders, and they've come in there and they've discovered that there are mineral resources in that area. Zamfara Plateau, Niger, states and stuff like that. And Nigeria is well endowed, and these guys have been busy, mining gold, mining all kinds of things, even in Borno State. So you have all this illegal mining going on, and then of course they are going through the porous borders, they are selling them and making millions out of it. Otherwise, sometimes we have to sit back and think, why are these guys carrying motors, automatic guns that are so expensive, in the black market? An AK-47 is about 400 or 500,000 naira. So who is been buying this for them? And then you have them having new ones. That tells us also that they've just got supplies. And they are holding these guns, fighting the Nigerian army for how many years now? That also tells us other things. The intelligence being gathered about this war is huge. I know that the DSS itself will be, bursting with all kinds of intelligence about what is going on. People who are sponsoring terrorism, people who are making big money out of it, and of course, when they arrest people and send them in, like we had in the last administration, the Attorney General will gather the list of those people they know are terrorist sponsors, and then of course, you don't hear anything again. Or they make one or two examples of people, and they don't publicize it the way we should be having that. Because publicize it and let people know that yes, government is doing something about it. But this is the lukewarm attitude with which we're dealing with this, and I don't think that is going to give us results.
Okay, Mr. Macri. Just permit me to ask one last question from my end. What body language do you think the president of Nigeria should put on right about now? Because I mean, you are aware, you've also studied a lot of presidents from different parts of the world. When insecurity happens to be alarming in their country, we see the presidents come out. Take, for instance, President Barack Obama of the United States. You could mention on and on, even in the UK, the Prime Minister then. They come out, they hold press conferences, they speak, they talk tough. You've been there with the DSS for years, and I'm sure that you're aware of intelligence reporting, how the president should be able to speak. Whether we like it or not, I mean, we've seen movies where the DSS, or in quotes, the secret security operatives, are also involved in ensuring that the president's speech, points out what the country stands for. If you were there with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu now as we speak, what body language would you want him to put on or possess? And then what message do you think should be pushed out as a narrative now to Nigerians?
Well, if I was, with the president, and the first thing I would do, and I think the security intelligence agencies are doing, is to tell him to come back to Nigeria, wherever he is. And this is the problem that we have. Nigerian leaders, it's not just with this president, it has happened with other presidents. Remember when there was fire at Nikon, the telecommunication, Nitel building, and the fire was leaving, and people were running around. The Navy was trying to pump stuff. It is not that the president should come and do that, but he has to be sympathetic and then be around. And that was when our president at that time, President Shagari, flew out of the country. Here in the United States, you discover that there will be a plane crash, and then the governor will come immediately. Yesterday, there was some shooting in the university. Florida State University, there was a little boy who, not little boy, university student whose father is a sheriff deputy, and who have access to gun. And he went and picked up one of his father's gun, went to the university and started shooting. And as he was shooting, the police was responding immediately. And that's another problem we have, quick response. We don't have that. We allow the thing to go on, and in fact, after they finished and gone, then you will see the police. That's why I'm very, very worried when I get the Inspector General of Police will now deploy 30,000 people, 30,000 policemen to go and then deal with the situation where, they finished and gone. And yesterday you heard his statement when he went to Benue State. It will never happen. This will never happen again. But I beg to differ, because it will happen again. It will happen again. We are not handling this thing in the way it should be handled. So the optics is very, very important. Where the things politicians do, should reflect that they are concerned, they are worried about what is happening. And then, of course, you have to be so systematic about it in such a way that, even the people in the country will feel it, that yes, something is happening, these people are trying their best. And then, of course, involve the people too, because that's another part of it that we are not doing. We've left the fight for security agencies, the police and the army. People should be involved, because this is a war that Nigeria is going through, and everybody must be involved in doing it. But we leave it for politicians, and then of course they will play their normal politics with it. And then, if the place is belonging to the ruling party or not the ruling party, and you see the difference in attitude of the governor or the presidency. So we want a situation where we don't want to mix politics with security. Security should be allowed and be sponsored to do what they have to do.
Dennis Emakri, it really has been an insightful conversation that we've had, and we unfortunately will have to wrap up the conversation here. We hope that these tips that you shared will be taken, and that maybe this would influence the president's decision to return before the Easter celebrations are concluded, as opposed to the...
He's not returning until after the Easter.
Maybe he will change his mind after this interview. Thank you so much for your time with us as always. Happy Easter.
Thank you very much, Mr. Emakri.
Thank you for having me, and happy Easter to you all.
Right. Quite a sensitive conversation. Every time we have to talk about insecurity, it's not from the most exciting place or exciting of places, because it feels like we keep repeating the same conversations over and over and over again. And it's positive results the Nigerians want to see. We don't want to keep revisiting the same kind of conversations every day.
I want to talk about fuel is now 300 naira, Nigeria is, dollar is now 200.
Sorry, what did you say again?
Things like that. Now, today is a public holiday. Journalists' lives matter, you know. We sometimes really need to go through, talk to a shrink, because we absorb so much news, and it's sad. A significant portion of it is bad news, because bad news that's why it's news.
Exactly.
Dog bites man. That's not news.
Man bites dog.
Yes, that's news.
That's it. I see what you did there. Anyway, let's move on to our next story, Olive.
Yes, indeed. Magistrate Court in Lagos has freed Alabi Quadri, the leader who stood before Peter Obi's convoy prior to the 2023 elections that went viral, as he appeared in court on Thursday after spending several months in Kirikiri prison, Lagos. Quadri was cleared of charges bordering on conspiracy, armed robbery, and it was said that there was no evidence to prove all of that. News Central, of course, was there and attended the court session. Let's take a look.
Arms outstretched, and Peter Obi's smile in response gained widespread attention after he stood in front of the Labour Party presidential candidates convoy during the 2023 election. However, Quadri's life took a drastic turn after his moment of fame.
In February, we organized a football match between Kirikiri inmates and Twitter influencers. So we got to know about one guy. That was there. He was owing the sum of 1.2 million naira, and that was why he was locked up. So after we helped that guy leave prison, he told us about Quadri.
This family has been continuously witch hunted since 2023. Let me also place on record that this was the second time that Quadri has been arrested. The first time, the same area boys took him before the same Bali of the community, and they demanded that part of the monies donated to Quadri be given to them. In fact, I can also tell you that the Bali of their community specifically told Quadri's mother to buy a cow with rice and cook to appease the youths. At that time, we did not hear about it. So in January, he was returning from work at night when two boys grabbed him, dragged him to the Amokoko Divisional Police Headquarters, and told the DPO that Quadri was involved in street fighting. To our greatest dismay, on the 27th of January, the police brought him before the same court to be remanded, only for them to get to court, and they were told that Quadri was being wanted in connection with a case of armed robbery.
It was revealed that Quadri, the 17-year-old minor, had been arrested and remanded at the Kirikiri Medium Security Correctional Center with his age misrepresented.
I am calling on behalf of the family that the DPO of Amokoko must be removed immediately, and that even the IPO and other officers who were involved in this very devilish act of framing up a minor for armed robbery must be made to face orderly room trial. We are also demanding that the police must pay the sum of 100 million to Quadri, having been detained since January illegally. Lastly, we demand a public apology from the Nigerian police. Currently, Quadri and the family are under constant threat. We may have to find a way to relocate them from where they are staying because they are not safe. They have been even at that this morning before they came to court. they still went back to threaten them.
Quadri's fortunes changed when Magistrate Adetola Olorofemi of the Apapa Magistrate Court in Lagos discharged Quadri, ordering his release. As Quadri reunites with his family, many are left wondering about the countless others who may be languishing in detention centers across Nigeria.
Many things they are doing for me, but I will say, man, I know that God will move me for this condition where I'm at. I want to go to school. Yes.
That's my last born. Last born meaning. Ọmọ mẹ́rin péré náà ni mo bí. Owó òtún ọ̀kan ilé nìkan la gbà níbẹ̀. So ẹ fẹ́ rí sójú àtọ́ ìpè yes bó ṣe ń rìn. Ọmọ ìdẹ́ ń lọ síbi iṣẹ́. Ṣé ti yé yín? Àmọ́ mo dúpẹ́ lọ́dọ̀ Ọlọ́run, mo dẹ̀ dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ gbogbo ẹ̀yin tó kù àgàgà lọ́ọ̀yà ẹ̀.
Many say Quadri's journey from fame to detention and ultimately freedom serves as a shocking reminder of the complexities and challenges within Nigeria's justice system. In Lagos for News Central, Igalani Omani.
Beautiful storytelling there by Ibalani Omani of News Central. Really has sad to see him talking about his experience and saying he prays to God to remove him from this condition. Small boy, what does small boy know about condition?
17 years.
Last born.
You know what hurts me the most? 17 years. You tie him with 3 other people and you charge him for a case he knows nothing about. Is a 17-year-old supposed to be thrown into maximum prison without having a lawyer, nothing?
But now that he's been released and we have this, sadly, a culture of just moving on and not addressing impunity and the consequences and the chain of where things have gone wrong. The case shouldn't end here. Justice has to be served. We need to know that DPO that took part in victimizing him and make him famous. The police authorities need to do something about everyone that took part in victimizing this young man.
Benga, I agree. I think as we speak here, I'm sure that members of the press and of course our colleagues are putting up efforts to ensure that the DPO responds in a few hours or days from now. So if you're the DPO or your police officer who works in that police station, please advise the DPO to at least put out a press release. He needs to explain how he allowed this to happen. And I think, like you said, I agree with you, Benga, not I think, it is what it should be. You need to let Nigerians know. You see, accountability is a problem. Like they say, it starts from the top. If everybody feels I'm not accountable to anybody, I can do as I please. He's been released. We saw the video. There's joy. There's happiness in the family. One way or the other, it seems like you've gotten half justice. What about the other half? The other half simply is, okay, now he's been released. And that's exactly what Inibe is saying. Yes.
Not just the police officers, the people who are the ones that took him and the area boys who framed the ballet. Everybody involved should be made to face the law, because that is when justice will truly be said to have been done.
And let's stop this entitlement. It is you need to buy good for us. If not, why are you moving there? And this is also a call to Lagos State.
Yes, talking about Lagos State. Lagos State is still in darkness.
Yeah.
I mean, take a drive around the city at night, and not so far from the center of power in Alausa, where the State House of Assembly is located, the governor's office, the state secretariat, everywhere around there, at Bafemi Road, total darkness. And this is a story in major parts of Lagos. Please, Lagos State is almost hitting 1 trillion in internally generated revenue. We're always so happy to say, smart city, we're the 3rd largest economy in Africa, etc. It's absolutely disgraceful. And it's a public health safety issue. It's not even aesthetics. Nobody is saying you're putting street lights to beautify. Security, public health safety, and I think we need to start playing that report that I did back to back again, so that they understand the seriousness of not having traffic lights in 2025 on major roads in most parts of the metropolis.
And the other part, the difficult part with not even having this traffic lights, apart from the fact that it's even terrible, the street lights. When you're driving, you see that you then have to use your full lights. The person coming from the opposite direction has to use their full lights. You're all blinded, leading to the possibility of more accidents. So even if the pothole doesn't mess you up, the full light of the person coming opposite you, would then affect your line of vision.
Maybe we should start something on Breakfast Central where we have like a countdown for all of these issues. I mean, we do understand that, of course, we have some files we need to bring out, and some of these files should be able to indicate what is really going on. We have the Quadri case. It means that right now we've put the DPO and the other police officers on the spot, which means that it is our job to revisit this story, and hopefully we hope that the DPO would come out with a statement, as we've rightly mentioned. We also have another thing to do, being Lagos, to look at Lagos in itself and other states as well. River State, we've spotlighted River State for a long time. We can also look at Lagos and see what we can do. But let me mention here finally, before we go, you've talked about darkness, we've talked about how unhealthy in terms of smell, quality of air that we have in the state because of defecation, a number of persons you don't know who they are, the area boys, street urchins, and so on. If we don't solve these issues now, I'm sorry, the smart city that we are talking about may end up not being smart after all. It may end up turning to something else that we've never seen. And that brings me to what happened yesterday. Yesterday, New Central had its first of its kind, where we had all political parties, 18 of them, come together. It was a chairman's dialogue. It was a wonderful event, and unfortunately, one of the political parties did not come. That's the APC, the current ruling party, but every other political party was there, from the SDP, the APGA, Labour Party, PDP, name them. And the conversations were indeed around Lagos. It was centered on Lagos. We talked about governance, we talked about the issues with politicking in Lagos, and so on and so forth. I can tell you that New Central, being the first to put this event together, has indeed paved the way forward for what we would see come 2027 as well.
Great conversations, and
well done. Job in
excellent job facilitating.
Thank you. Great job.
A good representation of Breakfast Central.
I know you want to say
I'm very proud of you.
Yes, we're actually very proud of you. You weren't there.
Oh, no, I wasn't. I was watching online.
I thought you would be there because you are
digital support.
You are a chairman sitting on a chair.
Yes.
So I'm surprised that you were not called.
Guys,
let's
our producers are tired of us at this moment. It's a public holiday, so please
allow us, producers. Welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I am Olive Emodi. We begin in Lagos, where for the second time in less than 8 weeks, traders at the Agidingbi Mechanic Village in the Ikeja area of Lagos State are groaning over loss of their means of livelihood due to another round of demolition of their business premises. The premises, which shelters over 5,000 auto mechanic, traders and artisans, was pulled down on Thursday. At the time of this report, it was unclear the legal rights and the authorities involved in the demolition exercise. The traders say they have operated for decades under an agreement that their structures are temporary, but are surprised by the sudden notice, which was followed by a demolition exercise.
We our market, and we don't have another place we are working. It's only this place we have. And see the way country be now. See the situation where they pull everybody. My mother, this way I just wake up this morning, they call me for phone, say, oh boy, come rush you, come and carry your property. Before I reach there, they don't destroy my shop. Many my market day here now, it don't spoil. And this is where I'm living and feeding my family. I don't have any other place. My brother, this is where I see her. If Nigeria get another way, they can help us. Maybe they help us. Nobody say they pursue for here now, carry us go another place. We don't have another place. See, you said you can see as they destroy everywhere. Everybody just define this. You know where to go. This is where we see this morning. We don't even know what to do. We don't know what to do. It's not only this place. We hear about it. But our chairman here, they tell us we are not among. It's only that second yard, plot 8, they live here. Say we are not among. Which means they use the thing, they collect money for our hand. Thank you.
Another story, Nigeria's Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, says that the recent tariff hike by the ministry generated more than 700 billion naira in 2024 alone. The minister made this known during the ministerial scorecard series in Abuja, where he assured Nigerians that the era of frequent grid collapse is over. He says that the ministry has already set in motion plans for mass metering for citizens to close the gap in electricity billing.
But with the tariff review that was implemented in 2024, the revenue grew from 1 trillion 2023 to 1.7 trillion, which is 700 billion increase. And this is the result from the cost-reflective tariff adjustment for Band A customers. And we have just done this for 15% of Nigeria electricity consumers. As of today, if we grow our generation to 8,700 megawatts, the grid can still carry it. Thanks to the activities of the TCN and the FGM Power Company. 2 years ago, once it gets to 5,000, the grid collapses. Then we have evacuated 5,800 successfully without the grid blinking. We have completed the procurement process of this rep. 75,000 meters have already arrived in April, and we are expecting additional 200,000 meters in the month of May. Before the end of this year, 1.3 million meters will come from the World Bank funded distress program.
Nigeria is holding out the olive branch to its neighbor and long-term regional ally, the Republic of Niger, after nearly 2 years of forced relations in the wake of a coup in Niger. Foreign Minister Yusuf Toga was in Niamey on Wednesday, where he was received by Bakary Sangare, his Nigerian counterpart. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, under the chairmanship of President Bola Tinubu, has imposed stringent sanctions on Niger and advocated the restoration of constitutional order while threatening military intervention. A statement from the Nigerian and Nigerian ministers said conversations between both sides was mutual and aimed to mend fences for the restoration of normalized relations. Now let's go outside Nigeria. The U.S. Special Envoy to Africa has called on Rwanda to withdraw all its troops from the Democratic Republic of Congo and stop any support for the M23 rebel group. U.S. Envoy Masad Bulus said this during an online press conference from Washington after meeting this month with the leaders of both countries, an allegation Kigali has since denied. Eastern DR Congo has been racked by decades of conflict, but tensions have soared in recent months by the advance of the M23 armed group, with which the international community says is backed by Rwanda. Still staying outside Nigeria, Human Rights Watch has warned that the security situation in Haiti is in free fall. This is as armed groups continue to unleash deadly violence in the capital and other areas across the Caribbean nation. In a statement on Thursday, Human Rights Watch said criminal gangs have escalated their attacks in Port-au-Prince since last year, and only 10% of the city remains under government control. Opposition leaders and self-defense groups have led violent protests against the transitional government. According to the United Nations, between late January and March 2025, at least 262 people were killed and 66 others injured in the southern Port-au-Prince communes of Kenskoff and Carrefour. And that's all we have this hour. I am Olive Emodi. We'll now reconnect with Breakfast Central. Stay with us.
You're watching Breakfast Central on News Central. Let's take a look at the front pages for this hour, and don't forget to join us as well. We'd like to hear your thoughts on some of the major stories. We'll also have our correspondents join us in the course of reviewing the front pages of the newspaper. But before we go into it, we do have our in-house analyst who would be joining us. We have public affairs analyst. One we just learned has two, not just one. But of course, we'll tell you more about it, okay? Just hold on. Professor Simon Na joins us this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very
much. Let's leave it for last. Let's leave it for last. Let's just use it to tease them. He has two, but we pause, you know.
Okay.
Before we wrap up, you get to find out.
I think it's important to know the two things.
Yes, two things. Two things. So you
Thank you very much, Prof. And happy holidays to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's go straight to our paper so you can start joining, and then you can also partake by calling the number right there on the screen. We'll have that number on the screen in a moment. We'll go to the Punch. That'll be the first paper we would be looking at this very hour. On the Punch newspaper, federal government to inject 1,900 megawatts solar power into grid. Government sets 8,000 megawatts power goal by 2027. Taps private sector for grid expansion. I'm going to leave all of these stories and just pick one and allow our guests to react to the story. Let's go to this one. I want you to talk on this, Mr. Na. Tinubu, working remotely from overseas, returns after Easter, according to presidency. What's your take on this?
Well, there's news making around the social media by the daughter, that the man is sick and we should pray for him. So that contradicts what we're hearing, that he's there on working leave. But the doctor succinctly said he's in the hospital. So I don't know which one to believe. However, I don't know why he should run to France to be doing the work he's supposed to be doing in Nigeria. Yeah, we're in a digital age, but Nigeria is burning. Can you imagine the number of people that have been killed in Benue and Plateau this last 1 week? A responsible government would have run back to Nigeria to see one or two things he could do about it. Let me say this. Let me say this before
sorry to interrupt you. Just to update you on some information that you get. The presidency has said that the president is no longer in Paris. He's now in London.
London, yeah. I wanted to. That's why I said let me, because this morning is on social media that has left France for UK. So the question is, why is he junketing the whole world while Nigeria is burning? A responsible government, like I said before, should have come back to this country. So you can say whatever you like with technology. You can say whatever it is, disinformation. No, but his presence matters. Because if he's here and he's sending out his people to go to Benue Plateau and stem the tide of what is going on there.
All right, so just to clarify that the statement about his daughter saying he was sick is not official news. It's from the grapevine.
That's what I said.
Okay,
that's on social media.
Okay.
It's not from the grapevine. She said it. She was live on Instagram.
Oh, okay.
She was live on Instagram. It's not. I can send the post to you.
Okay.
She was live on Instagram.
All right, we'll go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll still be exploring some of the conversations on the front pages of the paper. Please make sure to join us by calling the numbers that will be scrolling on your TV screen after this break. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We're still joined by public affairs analyst Professor Simeon Nna. And we're looking at the front pages of the papers this morning. Let's now also inform you that you can be a part of the conversations. Please feel free to call the numbers on your TV screen to react to any of the stories that we're looking at this morning. The Nigerian Tribune, on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, presidency defends Tinubu's foreign stay amid criticism over insecurity, says president now in London, which is the conversation we just concluded. Nigerian economy recovering boards, ellipsis. LCCI says Eastern Rail Line may be ready before 2027. NRCMD military deactivates 42 illegal refineries, naps 42 oil thieves. So many other stories there, but I'd like to focus on gunmen attack Natasha's family house in Kogi. Investigation has begun, says police.
Well, they can investigate for all I care. She gave that alarm earlier that her life is being threatened. And she mentioned names. She didn't hide it. And from her too, I heard she sent a petition to the IG. And they did nothing about it. Recall that her security details have been withdrawn. And according to her, because I read a story from her, she said that they thought she was at home when they came to attack the family. And they destroyed the place. Say armed men came to destroy the place. So we should be very careful the way we handle this. I said it from day one that this woman, she's a lawyer, so she knows what she's saying. Whenever she makes allegations, she will tell you she has evidence. Why don't you pursue that and see whether what she's saying is right or wrong?
Now, Prof, still on this issue, she has written to the IG and asked for security details to be reinstated.
Yes.
But it was one of the conditions of the suspension that the security details should be removed. Now, following this incident, do you think she should be given her security details?
It is preposterous in the first place to withdraw her security details. Nobody has the right to withdraw her security details. In fact, what they are doing in the Senate is an aberration. Why will you ask her security details to be withdrawn and her salaries, allowances, costs, everything? No, that's not the first time a senator has been suspended. Never a time has security details been withdrawn. So there's devil in the details. They should tell us what they are up to. Because attacking her now means that they are up to something. And listen, I don't think Nigerians and women will keep quiet if anything happens to Natasha. I'm not her fan. I don't even know her. I've only seen her on tele or read about her. But we should do the right thing. Why will you? In fact, I don't understand this country any longer, because the Supreme Court has given a judgment that the Senate has no right to suspend a service senator. Because we have had 2 or 3 suspensions earlier. And the verdict was you cannot suspend them more than a week or 2. So why 6 months and we do everything? You know, this points to the fact that there is something that they are not telling us. So they better start talking.
Okay. Do we move to another newspaper?
I mean, just check your stories and whichever one.
Okay. Now let's talk about. Let's move to the daily independent newspapers. The headline is still re-echoes what a number of headlines said. Tinubu overseeing developments in Nigeria from Europe presidency. May, keyword May, conditional, return after Easter festivities. So don't, so put your minds at rest. The president might not return soon. Attacks in Benue about land grabbing, says Governor Alia. Insecurity, Obi supports northern monarchs, calls on decisive action. SEC disowns CBEX, says firm not registered. But people have said they've seen SEC officials attending CBEX events. So how do you reconcile that? Trump may shut down 30 U.S. embassies, consulates in Africa, Europe, and Asia. I mean, if you shut them down, how do you expect people from those countries to travel? Mr. Trump is just... and they're currently building their largest consulate in Eco-Atlantic as we speak. Power sector revenue soars 70% to 1.7 trillion naira in 2024 on reforms. Prof, I believe this is where we should pack our downfall and discuss this issue. 1.7 trillion on 2024 power sector reforms. That's a huge amount of money. What's your assessment of the minister is actually on the front cover? That was him at the ministerial scorecard at the National Press Center. Giving himself a pass mark, saying he has done exceptionally well when it comes to power. What's the let's make it personal now. What's your power situation in the last 6 months, 1 year?
Let me first of all comment on one issue before I come to that.
Okay.
That the handlers of the president say may return, likely alleged to, may not return. That fuels the suspicion that what the doctor said might be right. Because if he's not healthy enough, he might not return. Period. Having said that, the issue of I don't know which one to call it now. They have moved from NEPA to PSCN to DISCO. I don't know what next they will move to. As we speak, I'm on band A. And they said they are supposed to give us light for 20 hours a day. There are days I don't have up to 6 hours. To be fair to them, there are days I have up to 22 hours, not just 20. But you see, the front and back from them. Recall that when they took over, they said they were going to bring over 3 million meters. At the end of the day, they didn't more than 3,000 meters, 300,000 meters out of the 3 million they promised. This time around, they are promising 1.9. Let's pray that we get up to 190,000 meters. Because this issue of prepaid meters has not been helping matters. If they actually want to, and look at the amount he said they made because of the hike in tariffs. The question is, what are they doing with that humongous profit or money that they are making? Some of the discos are not doing what they're supposed to do. I recall that during the time Fashola was the power minister, he threatened to withdraw their licenses because they are not performing. Now, federal government said they have hands off those things, but they are still funding them.
What do you have to say about the exorbitant charges Nigerians had? Just last week, the deputy governor
of Lagos State,
his charges went from 2-point-something million to 20-something million, and they're protesting in parts of Surulere. They are begging the minister, please remove us from Band A. We are tired of these charges.
No, I said it earlier. They are ripping people off. That's why I was asking all the monies they are making. See, in the Republic of Benin here, they don't pay that much. And we're not supplying them like to. And I can tell you for free that you can stay for 1 week in the Republic of Benin and there will be no power cuts. And when they are about to cut the line, they will inform you that they are about to do some maintenance, and at the end of the day, yes, they pay expensive for power there, but not as expensive as we are paying. And when the people giving them light, yet their own is more stable than ours, and we are paying for darkness. I don't understand. You know, before now, one of the reasons why government said, let's decentralize the PSCN and then call it disco and whatever they are calling them now. It was because they said they're going to pay, they are not going to subsidize energy again, and we agreed to pay. But you can't be paying for darkness. You should pay for light. And if you are paying for light, it does not mean that every money you make now should be geared towards energy alone. You won't have money to feed yourself. I have a friend that said in his factory he was paying 300 and something thousand before, but the thing suddenly jumped to 9 million a month.
Wow.
How can you survive?
Okay, let's hear from Henry. Henry is calling from Lagos. Good morning, Henry. Henry, are you there? Okay, seems you may have lost that connection with Henry.
And the fortunate thing is that green energy is not cheap. People would have ported to that and forget this. Have you forgotten that they are trying to ban the importation of solar? That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Because money will make it more expensive.
Henry is calling. Henry, good morning. Thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Oh
dear. Henry, please call back. So yes, you're talking about how even difficult it is to port to green energy because the average, there have been options. Yes, there are smaller options of all those 1,000 watt batteries that can power a few things in the house, but it's not even cheap as well. So if they ban it, what will happen is the ones that are in would skyrocket. We have porous borders. The panels will still come in through the black market, but at
we don't even have the capacity to indigenously produce the numbers that can cater. We've discussed this holistically on Breakfast Central.
We don't have that capacity at all. And the batteries are not coming cheap. They are skyrocketing every day.
They are. And there are exorbitant duties even on those batteries. So what do we use all this excess?
A good battery now is not less than 500,000.
To do.
And you need more than one.
I was using 4 in my house and they are down. I can't replace them. It's only the solar now that is working. So when there is no sun, I don't have light. It's only when there is sun that I use the solar to
I'm about to enter the rainy season. Limiter is one that will have serious.
If those batteries are cheap, the time the 4 batteries were working, I have light 24/7. I don't even care whether their PSCN is working or their disco is not functioning.
Okay, let's we have a caller from Abuja. Good morning, Eggy.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead.
I want to make a contribution to your program. Olive, I want to thank you and your colleagues there in the studio.
Thank you.
I haven't been seeing Osarodion. I hope he's fine.
He is well.
Osarodion is doing well.
Thank you for asking.
Okay, your colleague to your right said something about issues that needed to be followed up, especially with the press. It serves as a great reminder for Nigerians. Let me tell you something about the 2023 election. You remember about the presidential election and the fact that it was said that budget has been made for a rerun. I don't know if you guys remember. So if budget was made for a rerun, there was never a rerun. What happened to that budget? Was that money ever returned? This is one issue and several issues that are begging for answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. Of course, these are conversations that need to be followed up, and we certainly will continue to highlight them here on Breakfast.
Maybe like snakes swallowed money in jam.
Yeah, those are things.
Maybe transferred it back to Federation accounts.
So if they had done so, we would have known that. If they had done so. Recall that INEC was still asking for additional funds for the off-cycle elections.
Okay, I think we have to move down to another paper.
I think before you do that, let's also use this medium to inform our viewers that if you're headed to Kwara Bridge, that's Ogun State near Berger, Lagos, yes, Kara Bridge. Kara Bridge, yes, just saw that clearly. Ogun State, that's near Berger. If you remember that, of course,
after is around that.
There's an accident there. Okay, there was an accident this morning. It involved multiple cars. That's the information we're getting, and also a truck. We're told so far so good. There's been one life lost. That's what we can confirm. We've not been able to confirm the others. So if you're heading towards that area, Kara Bridge, of course, you know the Berger axis. Please be mindful that you may be faced with traffic. We do have our reporter who's almost there, so he would be joining us while we review the papers, hopefully very soon, as soon as they can get there on time. I'd like us to look at one story very quickly. Let's go back to the Nigerian Tribune. Let's see if we can get the Nigerian Tribune up there. Yes, this story there, it says CBEX, illegal unlicensed digital asset exchange, SEC. I know you've been following this story on CBEX. I just wanted to ask, did you...
Can never be Prof.
Did you...
No.
Let me see.
Prof can never...
Anybody who... I'm not saying Prof, did you hear of it? That's what they always
yes,
did you hear?
From last week,
because they said they had marketers who would tell you, come. You know?
You see, you are talking of CBEX. There are so many of these pawn schemes that are going on, and I'm surprised that even the Security and the Exchange Commission is saying that they are not aware. In fact, I was discussing with a friend last night, and I said some of them that a list came out from EFCC, and some of the names in that EFCC are some financial subsidiaries of some financial institutions
that are registered.
Yes. Hallmark PLC, Hallmark was a bank that went under. So that institution was a subsidiary of Hallmark. CD Trust is a bank. So that one is a subsidiary of a bank. How will people now know that these subsidiaries of banks are not to be invested with? See, some of us lost money earlier in some of these schemes. I'll mention one, Oxford Investment Limited. Oxford came with the pretext, they will paint pictures. They came with the pretext of land, selling lands and what have you, and selling this and that for you. And at the end of the day, they collected people's funds. I can tell you for free, that of Oxford. Even high-ranking officials of government invested in Oxford. Because of their connections, they were able to collect their money from Oxford. And Oxford has gone under today. And what the man now did was start selling his properties, because we went to court to demand that our monies will be paid. Now, you know what they're telling us? Because these guys know what they're doing. And they have their legs here and there. They bribed some high-ranking police officials that you can't get them arrested. And when we now went to court, they now said, well, you can obtain judgment in court. If you obtain judgment in court, how will you be able to enforce it? So they are now saying we should come home and let's settle at home. Let them give us land and what have you. You see, some of these things, people are blaming a lot of people. Why do you go and invest your money in such a thing? Why won't they, when the Emefiele and Co. reduce interest rates that they were paying on funds investment? Now, before this issue started happening, Central Bank gave a gap that commercial banks should be giving interest on investment, which was between 12 and 15%. Suddenly, they reduce the thing to 3 to 5%. So it becomes difficult for people to keep their money for 1 year, and they give you a picture sum of 5. What is 5%? Maybe you have a million there. What's 5% of 1 million? So at the end of the day, these people are giving 20-25%, and they have. Let me even take the picture of that Oxford. They will pay you upfront. If you want to interest upfront, they will pay you upfront. Now, they did a 5-year razzmatazz of their success on Arise TV. So people believe they were real. People believe they were real. They will give you a percentage check when your money will be due. So that when it's due, and people that did those 5 years cash their money. But after that, the thing now started collapsing. And that was why some of us were trapped. More so when we saw the razzmatazz on Arise television. And said, why keep your money in a
people have said the social media platforms, because a lot of the advertisement goes on social media, do they have a responsibility to check the validity of some of those schemes? And also, do television stations and media platforms, do they have a responsibility to scrutinize some of this?
Before you respond to that, let's get this call from Onyeka. Good morning, Onyeka. Please go ahead with your comments. Thanks for calling us.
Good morning, Miss Central. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Yes, I want to make a comment on along with your discussion. Please, I was a victim of this. As I'm sure you people are just joining. You're talking about this CBEX issue. Am I right?
Yes, yes.
Please go ahead.
Yes, what I'm trying to say is that myself, I felt I was a victim of this Ponzi scheme sometime around 2000 or 2001. Shortly after COVID, I came to Abuja. And the name of this thing is MBA Forex. Nobody's talking about that. What I've been listening on the news recently. Some people are talking MMM and whatever. I heard about MMM. But this MBA Forex, was real in the time we invested. I lost millions, up to 8 million. But I must say during the COVID, most sincerely, they paid me every month 15% of my investment every month. For this period of COVID 6 months, 2019, I got millions. I got millions back from them. That rekindled my interest. When I left Lagos, I relocated to Abuja. I now followed MBA Forex and increased my investment to 8 million from 4 million. And that was it. And I went on the ground. I have my legal agreement with them as an investor. There's a legal agreement. I saw SEC documents. I checked them out from the corporate affairs. They were registered. But unfortunately, the owner by name, Mr. Maxwell Odom, whom I tried to reach out, even from Port Harcourt, we gave Pastor Fisher Economic, quote me, 1 billion investment of people funds. Some people died, committed suicide, because they couldn't keep it. But they were paying 15%, like I told you, they paid me. But unfortunately, they went on the ground. And up to today, SEC hasn't said anything. So it surprises me. In line with what the guest speaker is saying, Mr. Anna and other things, I don't know what government wants to do, because some people say that if they say CBEX or CBEX, whatever now, Nigerians will still follow them. What does the regulatory bodies, I'm a sort of accountant too, talking to you, so I'm not an ignorant person, financial, but I still fall for them. So many Nigerians. So what is the regulatory authorities are going to do? I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story.
I think SEC is speaking from both corners of the mouth. Because when this issue came up, one of the things that SEC said to Oxford was that their agro programs can go on, but their investment programs cannot go on because they didn't properly register with them. And they asked they should be registered, and they said they are withholding their money until they registered. And they said they were going to give all investors their investment and then withhold the interest or whatever. The company cannot pay the interest. But it was not done. That's what I'm saying. At a point we had that some people in SEC had a deal with the owner of the business. And that's what happened.
Just listening to our last call.
That's what happened.
He's a chartered accountant and is within reasonable bounds. 15% interest is not too
It's not, yes,
it's
that's not a fraudulent.
He did his due diligence with the Corporate Affairs Commission and the Security of
Something are registered, properly registered.
So, I mean, where's the protection from?
It's sad, Binga. There's a picture. I don't know if we can get that picture for those who were duped.
Yeah.
Those who were duped on this CBEX. I was trying to follow up with that investigation, and I spoke to two persons. One of them sent me a picture of one of the conferences, many conferences that they've had. And if I could put that picture up, I don't know if I can get it, but I know it should be from yesterday when I got it. It says number 6 on the program of event, you have session with SEC. Section with SEC.
So it gives a level of endorsement.
Yes, what they're doing.
Of endorsement, I beg your pardon.
It has a section with SEC there, and that image there makes it clear that if you have the Security Exchange Commission there coming to speak, maybe it's also hard. I think we will do our due diligence and try. They have it. They are number 6. Can you see that?
Yeah,
session with SEC by Mr. Abdul and Barrister Tokwe. You know, and this person went on to, show me a lot of information more, telling me that, listen, there are people who are very, respected in different industries who are also part of this in terms. So it's why it is starting to look like it's a wild goose chase. You're trying to catch a certain people, but then again,
I want to take
and the FCC is equally speaking from both corners of the map that they never informed me. It's not
okay, so let's hold on. We have a call from Elder David. Good morning, Elder David. Thanks for calling. Please go ahead.
Good morning, ma.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're struggling to hear you. You can please speak up.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma. I'm very interested on this your topic. I'm a victim of it. 2018, they pay me my little pension. I buy that the communication share. Up to today, 5,000, I'm not received cover. Please, you people to help me recover my own money. I'm a pensioner with my pension money. That communication is what I'm talking about. The AIT, that David, I'm the one speaking. So many of our pensioners bought that share by that time. Many of them have died. Why is it like that in this country? I thank you for this your topic. All these companies that do that, if you close them down, let them return our money. All of you there will grow old. You'll be a pensioner. It's my little money they pay me at that time. I used to buy the share. Yes. 5,000 at that time. If I tell you how much it is, 25, am I correct, my son? Yes, I have my document and everything. You want me to supply to your company, I supply there. Thank you very much. God will bless all of you.
For the security agencies to say the things they are saying makes me feel bad about this country. A section of the Oxford I mentioned went to the National Assembly. They went to the House of Reps. And this issue, we are just, but once you go anywhere, once they know you have gone anywhere, they go there and meet them and discuss with them. And before you know it, they kill the issue. So what are we talking about? They are all aware. All the security agencies are aware. The National Assembly, the House of Reps, for instance, is aware.
No, Prof, EFCC is promising. I mean, the EFCC is promising.
What are they promising?
He went on media rounds yesterday and he said the victims of CBEX will get their money back. Does that send some sort of confidence to those that are
I don't know how they are going to get those monies back. It's not true.
And if what's your message to those that have been scammed by CBEX listening to EFCC?
Well, my message is, if EFCC has given a promise, well, let them pursue EFCC. But my fear is that even if they are going to get anything, it will be just a fraction of what they have deposited. Because the money is no longer there. Once these things happen, the owners of those organizations will start, either selling the things they bought and transferring the monies to either their wives, their children, and what have you, so that you cannot hold them responsible. A company is a legal entity, so you cannot arrest a son for what the father's company owes. No, it's not done. So they know some of these laws. So what they do is they transfer it to their children, they transfer it to their wife, even to their girlfriends and what have you, and later go and discuss with them. I'm telling you a fact. I'm not exaggerating anything here, because these are things I've seen happen. I'm saying it like this.
Well, it's been a fantastic conversation. This brings
and it's sad way to end the conversation, really, because even just hearing the story of the last caller, Elder David, a number of these people are pensioners. A number of these people are putting their life savings, their life investment. I saw a story of someone who allegedly committed suicide as a result of this. But I can't confirm, whether or not that happened. But I know that it's a possibility that can happen. And we can't keep leaving loopholes and gaps in our policy, legal framework that allows things like this to drive.
Protecting the citizens should step up and do their work.
If I were allowed to, put a clarity on this, I would advise that the EFCC also investigates the SEC.
That's it.
They should investigate that.
That's it.
Because you cannot, just like our guest has said, we've been standing on this mandate, they use the word mandate from the beginning of this show, that even from yesterday when we're talking about CBEX, that you cannot say something with one mouth and then change all of a sudden with another mouth. I mean, those who invested in it said that at some point, 5 days before the announcement of CBEX, that is when they got a message from SEC stating that, their certificate is no longer available. They've not been able to get there. So why allow them exist for a stretch? It means that so are there moles, are there people inside that are conniving with these companies and telling them, don't worry, we need to know, and it should be an open investigation.
It should. I don't want to mention figures. They're running into billions.
All right. Prof, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. Just to, quickly mention, Joe, you were going to mention the two things that Prof has. Can you tell the audience?
No, I think I'll allow you, because you started that conversation.
No, you started it, Joe. Why are you not pushing it on me?
Okay, I'll just go.
People in a world where many people cannot afford to flip through the pages of a book because life is happening, and sometimes people are too tired and thinking
the young generation is saying education is a scam. No,
yes,
it's not.
Prof has 2 PhDs. Prof, 2 PhDs and a master's degree.
Yeah.
What would you say to people who are, I think that people who say education is a scam?
Well, let them try ignorance.
They will feel it.
When I was doing my master's in UI, there was this old man in his early 80s or very late 70s. He was doing his 7th PhD.
Wow.
So one day I accosted him. I said, sir, what's going on? He said, I don't understand. I said, please, make me understand. He said his children are overseas. The wife is gone. He's the only person here. That once you don't activate your brain, you start dying.
True.
So that he's doing that. He knows he's not going anywhere with it. He was doing the 7th PhD in UI. He has retired. But he was still doing that. He said because once you don't engage your brain, the brain cells start dying one after the other. By the time the last brain cell will die, you will say the people from your village have killed you.
Wow.
I agree.
So we will, of course, definitely exploring that now.
So
Johansson will be going to study for his
school is
PhD.
not.
Yes, and also to some of our pensioners who still have a little strength in them, you might want to take up a course or two.
Who will pay the school fees?
Because they have kids.
I mean, they're online courses.
I mean, the online courses. Just read up.
All right, this is where we wrap up today's show. Thank you very much for joining us. And we cannot wrap up the show without giving a special shout out to all Manchester United fans around the world. 5,002 goals at Old Trafford is no mean feat. So congratulations. That was a bloody comeback, and we're certainly here for it. To all the Man U fans, glory, glory, Man United.
They tried, and shout out to the Chelsea fans as well. We're looking forward to the quarterfinals, and then moving to the finals.
Right now, Man U and Arsenal,
I don't know why some people just hate on, but it's fine. It's fine.
Prof, are you a Man U fan?
Teams? No, man. I'm an fan.
Yes.
I love it.